This is an argument that I've been seeing online non-stop, and it's something that I just had to talk about because it bothers me every single time I see it. So, we know it's been a while since the last 3D Mario game. The last original 3D Mario game was Super Mario Odyssey back in October of 2017. This October, it will be 9 years since Odyssey released. But there's fans out there that like to argue against this for some reason by bringing up other 3D Mario experiences that launched since 2017. For instance, in January of 2021, we got a port of Mario 3D World. It also came with a brand new 3D Mario experience called Bowser's Fury. This was technically a new 3D Mario to an extent, because it was only about a couple hours long. No, I'm not joking, you could probably beat this in like 2 to 3 hours. But yeah, if anything, if you played this game, you'll know very quickly that this felt like more of a blueprint, a test demo for something bigger to come later on. Like they were testing the waters with the first ever fully open world 3D Mario game to date. I mean, it was great, but it was just limited by being so short and feeling just like that, a tech demo, where you were limited by Mario's movement, not feeling like Odyssey's crisp rolls and dives, but instead the movement of Mario from 3D World, and also the fact that the game had significantly less boss battles than any other 3D Mario game. You just fought Bowser pretty much over and over and over again, and yeah, the game, I said it 1,000 times already, it's just way too short. Then the Switch 2 Direct would end with a crazy announcement that I don't think any of us were expecting. Yep, the big 3D adventure game on Switch 2 would first belong to Donkey Kong. In July, we would get Donkey Kong Bonanza. And with this game's announcement and release, this is where we start to see the pullback from fans, and also what felt like the great divide between fans, where half of the fan base would be completely satisfied with DK replacing Mario for now, and not minding having to wait until 2027 or even 2028 for the next 3D Mario experience. And the other half just really bummed out that this is happening right now instead of Mario, and we're still very much looking forward to the next 3D Mario to be revealed very, very soon. Now, both sides are perfectly normal, honestly. It's okay to be content with everything that you've gotten with Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's a stellar game, and honestly, so far, it's been the only Switch 2 game that I'd recommend someone go out and buy a $450 Switch 2 console for right now. I mean, for crying out loud, it had probably one of the craziest video game endings I've ever experienced in my life. But also at the same time, it's fine to be frustrated that we still haven't seen 3D Mario. I mean, pushing 9 years, almost a decade, for a new 3D Mario game is kind of absurd. But regardless of how you feel of Donkey Kong Bonanza replacing Mario, I wanted to make a video just simply stating Donkey Kong Bonanza is not a 3D Mario replacement. Well guys, before we get started, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in today. We're still trying to reach our goal of 400,000 subscribers and getting closer and closer by the day. So let's see how many new subscribers we can get on today's video alone. Thank you so much for tuning in and helping us reach our goal soon. Let's now jump into the discussion. The first problem that I see a lot of people bring up is the development team. We know Donkey Kong Bonanza was reprised of a lot of the Odyssey team. The lead producer of Super Mario Odyssey was Yoshiaki Koizumi. You can consider him the captain at the helm, or the captain of the Odyssey, where he was pretty much in charge of the entire game, and the entire project was his. But he was accompanied by game director Kenta Motokura, who's also helped work on past 3D Mario games and other games in Nintendo's libraries. Now, in the case of Donkey Kong Bonanza, Yoshiaki Koizumi had no part in the game's development. But now, Kenta Motokura, the director of Super Mario Odyssey, had been bumped up to lead producer for Donkey Kong Bonanza. Just think of this as he took Koizumi's spot for Donkey Kong. Now, to me, this was immediately an indicator that Nintendo wanted to split this development team up into 2 different groups, because why would Koizumi not have any say-so in a game that feels like Odyssey and comprised of most of Odyssey's parts and including its dev team? This sounded a lot to me like the team was split into 2 projects, one team working on Donkey Kong Bonanza and Koizumi's team working on the next 3D Mario. Now what else is interesting is Donkey Kong Bonanza started off as a Switch 1 game and was planned to be such, and I think that's why we had such a long gap. I know a lot of people were wanting Odyssey 2, and it shows that Donkey Kong Bonanza was going to be Odyssey 2 because it feels like an Odyssey 2. And to me, this makes even more sense for my theory, because if this was a game that was going to launch on Switch 1, I think it would have made a lot more sense for people having a big 3D Mario and a big 3D Donkey Kong on the same console, and then starting the Switch 2 with another big 3D Mario just makes a lot of sense. And we know this game started development right after Super Mario Odyssey, so it's been in development for a long time. They had plenty of time to work on this thing. It wasn't like it was rushed or pulled out when it wasn't supposed to be. So there's a good chance that this game could have been done. I mean, it was revealed and launched within like a couple of months, and then it came out on the second month for Switch 2's launch. So I'm willing to bet that this game was just sitting and waiting for the announcement of Switch 2 and the launch of the console. Now, another example from the devs is the legendary composer Koji Kondo. If you don't know who this is, he is literally Mr. Nintendo Music. He has been the main composer for almost every mainline Mario and Zelda game to date. Well, this ended with Mario Odyssey. Believe it or not, the lead composer from Mario Odyssey was Naoto Kubo, and he would move on to be the lead composer of Donkey Kong Bonanza as well. But similarly to Yoshiaki Koizumi, Koji Kondo actually did help with a lot of the music for Super Mario Odyssey, but he has done no work for Donkey Kong Bonanza at all. Perhaps you see what I'm trying to say here. The main producer and composer of 3D Mario games did not really have any work on Donkey Kong Bonanza. Why would this be the case? Well, that's because they're currently working on the game and the soundtrack for the next upcoming 3D Mario game as Donkey Kong Bonanza is currently happening. Splitting the dev team would honestly just make the most sense, and odds are this next 3D Mario game is not going to be an Odyssey 2 or any other sequel of that matter. A lot of people, myself included, are thinking that the next 3D Mario game is just going to follow the blueprints of Bowser's Fury and finally giving us a huge, one giant interconnected open world 3D Mario experience with tons of platforming challenges or maybe even shrine-like challenges for us to enter and have more linear 3D Mario platforming. With such a drastic change in formula and the way this next 3D Mario game is probably going to play, it wouldn't surprise me if this Odyssey team did split in two and lots of the core Odyssey workers stayed back on Donkey Kong Bonanza, but then a lot of new workers came in and they developed a brand new team for this new 3D Mario game. I mean, after almost a decade and Donkey Kong Bonanza being a thing which already kind of feels like an Odyssey 2, I don't know how they could possibly do another Odyssey 2 or a sequel to any past game right now. I know a lot of people want to see a Galaxy 3 because of the movie, but Galaxy 2 was already built on existing ideas left over from Galaxy 1, so I don't think any sequels make sense right now. Although I would love this one. Another argument that I absolutely can't stand is, hey, you got your 3D Mario. You essentially got your Odyssey 2 with Donkey Kong Bonanza. Look, I get it. It is worked on by the Odyssey team, and there's so many references, and even the way the game runs, looks, and plays, there's a lot of Odyssey DNA shoved into this thing. But even as someone that loved this game, like a lot, it didn't feel like a Mario game. I mean, it wasn't really based on platforming and getting from one area to the next. It was more about picking up pieces of terrain and throwing it around and pummeling enemies to a pulp, digging deep underground looking for hidden Banandium gems, and completely and utterly destroying the worlds around you. It was more of a giant fun sandbox to mess around in and destroy. This made the worlds feel, well, just like that. A giant sandbox instead of a giant playground. Mario games always feel like a playground. Every single stage and world is perfectly crafted for you to get from the beginning to the end in some capacity, whether it be a linear game like the Galaxies or 3D World, or whether it be something more open like 64 Sunshine or Odyssey. You can't really destroy the world in any of these games, or mess up the terrain, pick up pieces of the ground and throw it, or dig deep underground. You're meant to platform around the world, jump from building to building, leap from rooftop to rooftop in order to reach your destination. And that's something that Donkey Kong Bonanza just doesn't do. And it's fine, it's meant to be something different for a reason. If Nintendo truly meant for Donkey Kong Bonanza to replace the next 3D Mario for a while, then why didn't they just make a Donkey Kong game, but exactly like Odyssey? Why didn't they just have Donkey Kong platforming, grabbing vines, jumping from tree to tree, or, building to building, whatever type of worlds that he's in? No, they wanted a completely different gameplay style because they knew this isn't Mario, this is Donkey Kong, so they came up with digging and picking up pieces of already established terrain. This is why Donkey Kong Bonanza had to establish itself as a different thing, because it's Donkey Kong, not Mario. As a huge fan of all Mario and Donkey Kong games, I find it so strange that Donkey Kong fans are telling Mario fans, hey, you're getting your next 3D Mario, it's Donkey Kong Bonanza, now shut up and be patient for the next one. Just because Donkey Kong is made by the same team and has DNA remnants of Mario Odyssey does not make it a Mario game. Now, there's not too many examples I can pull of two different franchises being worked on by the same team that feel the same right now. I'm sure you guys can maybe think of some, but I've seen some people give these examples online that I completely agree with. The Persona team, they have tons of spin-offs in between their mainline games. Persona Revelation, Shin Megami Tensei, Persona Tactica, or Reload, or Royale. Just because these spin-offs are coming out, do we just immediately say, oh, that replaces the next Persona game, we can't expect the next mainline Persona game for another 3 to 4 years? Or probably the more obvious one, which may not be the best example because the quality of these games aren't quite there right now, but still, Pokemon normally drops a new game every single year. And when you look at something like Pokemon Legends ZA, which is still a full-fledged Pokemon game, it may not be mainline with the current gens, but like it's as close to a mainline as you're gonna get. Now, just because we got ZA, does that mean that Pokemon fans have to wait another 4 to 5 years for the next mainline Pokemon game? That wouldn't even make sense. I mean, based on the Giga Leak alone, we know that Gen 10 is probably coming this holiday, which is just a year after Pokemon Legends ZA. There is no reason the Mario Odyssey team couldn't just split up into 2 groups here. As one team moved to 3D Donkey Kong, a new team arose for the new 3D Mario. But also, if you love Donkey Kong Bonanza, then just enjoy it. There's no reason to bash Mario fans for now wanting to see the next 3D Mario game if they're just not big on Bonanza, which some people aren't. As much as I love Bonanza and was quite shocked to see how some people actually really didn't like it, I completely understand their complaints. It's a 3D platformer with a completely different design philosophy. And I know without a shadow of doubt, some people are going to say, just let Donkey Kong Bonanza have its time in the limelight. Dude, it's been so long since the last 3D Donkey Kong. It was over 25 years ago on the Nintendo 64. And trust me, I get it, but it's been over 6 months. It's time to move on. And this is where I start to move to my last point, because yes, it's been over 25 years since Donkey Kong 64, the last time we had a 3D DK, but moving on to almost a decade until your 3D Mario game on your brand new console is pretty crazy. Regardless of what you thought of Donkey Kong Bonanza, it's just not that IP that's going to gather attention from people the way a Mario or a Zelda would. Unfortunately, that's just the case. There's going to be die-hard Donkey Kong fans that are absolutely loving this game. I am loving this game as a die-hard Donkey Kong fan. But almost every single casual gamer or casual Switch 2 gamer that I know has no clue Donkey Kong Bonanza even exists. Most of them are like, oh, Mario Kart World or Pokemon? I'll probably pick those up. No one's really talking about the other games though, especially Donkey Kong Bonanza, which hurts me because I feel like it's the only one worth picking up for the Switch 2 right now. And I know this isn't a great metric and I hate talking about this normally, but views are also a pretty good indicator of what people are interested in. After doing this job for around 7 years, it's very easy to see what games are popular amongst the fans and what people love to watch and what people love to soak content up on. And Donkey Kong Bonanza was definitely not that. Once the game released, the game just pretty much died with content. I've seen fellow content creators of mine actually move back on to past Donkey Kong Country content that they were talking about before this game came out, because the Bonanza content was just going ignored. I wish this wasn't the case, but it's true, and you gotta look at what's going on with the Switch 2 right now, especially with the recent holiday sales. The Switch 2 did not have a great holiday season in 2025. November and December were pretty low. Now, it was a pretty bad season for consoles all across the board, but for a console that just launched no less than 5 to 6 months earlier, this is normally not a great sign whatsoever. It's too early for the Switch 2 to be having a bad holiday, and for investors and senior Nintendo employees themselves say, hey, we need to see some big first-party hits now. Mostly because looking at Nintendo's schedule in 2026, none of the games are going to be doing that for these investors and even for Nintendo themselves. They're not going to see the sales that they want until they start announcing at least 1 or 2 bombshell games to go along with the rest of these. And you're going to need to have a 3D Mario within the first year and a half of your new console if you want it to succeed. I mean, every single console has had a new major Mario game at some point within a year of its launch. And you look at the sales that these babies put up, Odyssey at 29.84 million units sold. Simply replacing the next 3D Mario game with Donkey Kong Bonanza for now as we wait another 2 to 3 years would be the biggest mistake that Nintendo's ever made. This is still towards the end of the 40th anniversary and the Mario Galaxy movie is right around the corner. Nintendo can't afford to wait too much longer to reveal and release this thing. Donkey Kong Bonanza was great, but man, it's time for a plumber, and I'm sorry, Donkey Kong Bonanza is not a 3D Mario replacement. And plus, I want to see more 3D games from Nintendo's IPs. I want to eventually see a 3D Yoshi game, a super ambitious Captain Toad sequel, you know what I mean? But it shouldn't come in replacement of a mainline 3D Mario game, something that's been guaranteed within the first year of every new console, every single time. But I leave you with a simple question. What do you think? Do you think Donkey Kong Bonanza is the replacement for a 3D Mario? My final verdict is no, and I do think they worked on both games at the same time. I think they have been simultaneously working on both games at the same time, and I do think that 3D Mario is inevitable, especially when you look at things are starting to get a little sour for the Switch 2 right now. After an incredible start, its legs are starting to drip off. A bad holiday season followed by lowering and lowering stocks, and also investors demanding some big first-party games. Nintendo's gonna have to really show up at this next Nintendo Direct. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya, guys.